Thank you. There we go.
A very warm morning. Good morning to you all, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to today's webinar brought to you by the CPF Consulting Group. We are discussing managing projects in times of uncertainty. Certainly a very timely webinar for us, given what is happening and with the country and the world going through a second and a third wave of COVID, it's only paramount that we begin to understand the essence of changing business models and what partnerships are available to us to be able to adjust accordingly. My name is Bithe Mwema. I am the Chief Executive Officer of Infallible Group. However, today I will be your MC as well as your moderator, courtesy of CPF Consulting. Just a quick reminder, today's presentation or webinar is titled Managing Projects in Times of Uncertainty. It's a webinar that is brought to you courtesy of CPF Consulting, Lights and Laser Properties, all of which are subsidiaries of CPF Group in Kenya, which provides a host of financial services. In terms of just giving you a sense of what we are going to go through today, I'll briefly take you through the program in terms of timings and just remind you of just some quick events that you need to consider in your point of view because we are dealing with technology. So first and foremost, if you disappear from this particular webinar, not to worry, just log off and come back on. If you haven't registered for this webinar, or if you would like to share this webinar with other participants who would benefit from it, we are running live on the YouTube page, that's a CPF Group, either on YouTube or on Facebook. You can be able to find links to this and share them accordingly. In terms of time, we will take 1.5 hours, possibly push it by one additional 15 minutes. So we start off at 10 and end at 11:30. We have a great set of panelists lined up just for you. We will start up with the welcoming remarks from Mr. Tony Olang, who is an executive director of Lights. Thereafter, we'll have a presentation touching on the real estate sector and what is happening there. And this will come from Shafani Rajani, who is the executive director of Laser Properties. Thereafter, we will have a demonstration of the product that both of these companies use and are suppliers of in the Kenyan market. We'll have a presentation from Oracle, and this will be done by Mr. Cedric Ziga, who is the regional manager for East Africa at Oracle Global Business Unit, as well as demonstration from Mr. Patrick Kimwaki, who is a senior sales consultant for Oracle Construction and Engineering Global. We'll have then a question and answer session and the closing remarks by Mr. Tony Olang. The substance of today's webinar is this. Oracle has a product that is feasible and is usable in Kenya, in Eastern Central Africa, in terms of managing projects. Now, the relationship between Oracle and Lights is this. Lights is able to supply this particular product. And so today we wanted to have captains of industry telling us what is happening in terms of managing projects today and what solutions are available to you so that if you need to be able to get in touch with this particular product to use it for your projects, then you are able to engage with Lights. Over and above that, Oracle, we make a demonstration of this particular project, but we are lucky because Laser Properties will demonstrate to us how they have been using this particular project. And in so doing, just give us a case study of how using this particular product works. Now, remember, this is a webinar, so we want to hear your voice as well. We will have a question and answer session later on, but after each and every submission, I'll be able to take maybe 1 or 2 questions before we go to the final tail end of this conversation and have a longer dated a longer time allocation for the question and answer sessions. Please put this up on the question and answer chat box. If you are watching us online, also feel free to put up your questions there. We will take up all these questions and endeavor to answer them, if not today, in the subsequent weeks, and come back to you via email. So remember, today's webinar is all about managing projects in times of uncertainty. We have presentations from Lights, we have presentations from Laser Properties, and a presentation from Oracle. Without further ado, let me introduce our welcoming remarks and our first and foremost panelist, and that's Mr. Tony Olang, who is the Executive Director for Lights. In brief, Mr. Tony Alang has a career that spans over 21 years in the financial services and renewable energies sector. Mr. Olang is currently the Executive Director of Laser Infrastructure and Technology Solutions Limited, aka LIGHT, which has been at the forefront of automating records management and has over 120 million records digitized for automation and improvement of client processes. Mr. Olang has previously worked with Rural Development Solutions, Alexander Forbes, the Architectural Services Company, and Britam. He holds a Master's of Science in Information Systems Security from the Universidad Empresarial de Costa Rica, a postgraduate diploma in Information Systems from the Cambridge Association of Managers, and a Bachelor of Science in Computing from the University of Portsmouth. Mr. Olang has a passion for environmentally sustainable projects, and he is keen on empowering people and has contributed towards the adoption of clean energy as well as technology for improvement of business processes in the region. Today, he wears the hat as being the Executive Director for Laser Infrastructure and Technology Solutions Limited, which is a subsidiary of CPF Kenya. Over to you, Mr. Olang. Please unmute your mic and start us off with the welcoming remarks as well as your presentation, setting the stage for today's presentation. Over to you, Mr. Olang.
Thank you very much, everybody, and welcome to this webinar. It's definitely a pleasure to have you joining us today, and we look forward to a very interactive session where we can share comments and ideas on lessons we've learned on some of the things that we do. I will be making the opening remarks for the presentation, and I will use a few slides, which I hope you can now see on the screen, and then proceed to invite a development on the same from the rest of the panelists. Thank you very much, and we look forward to a very exciting interaction. My presentation outline is about the introduction, how to plan a project, prepare for the build-up, the implementation stage of the project, and the closeout of the project. I will also say a little bit about LIGHTS and the CPF group at the end of my presentation. So project management is the discipline of planning, organizing, motivating, and controlling resources to achieve specific goals. The main challenge in project management is to achieve project goals and objectives vis-a-vis the scope, time, quality, and cost. Of course, it's very important that every part of the business runs more smoothly, focuses on the work that matters, and eliminates distractions and tasks from going off track. The phases of project management, as we have hinted in on the introductory slide, is planning, build-up, implementation, and closeout. And projects come in different colors, shapes, and sizes. As we are talking here today, we are mentioning largely about real estate projects. And we'll also be telling you a little bit about the relationship between LIGHTS and Oracle and how the various solutions that we have to improve on project management could then be of use to you and how to improve on your projects. Within the planning phase, we focus on how to determine the real problem to solve. We then proceed also to identify the stakeholders, define project objectives, determine scope, resources, and management of tasks, and ultimately also prepare for trade-offs, which we'll look at in a little more detail as we proceed with the discussion. So when we are defining the problem, more often than not at the beginning, when we are mapping out projects, we tend to jump immediately to scheduling. And we may not need to get there until, well, much later in the build-up phase. Planning is about defining fundamentals in the project. We're asking ourselves what problem needs solving, who will be involved, and what will be done. There are many more questions you could ask around the same, and that then comes through in your planning phase of the project. During your planning phase, we will also proceed to identify stakeholders. And the problem then becomes clearer once we identify our stakeholders, the functions or people that may be affected by the project, who will contribute resources. These are the people, space, time, tools, etc. that we will be using in the project, and who will ultimately benefit from the project output. We will also proceed to define what a successful project means and prepare sign-offs on expectations and what the stakeholders will ultimately be looking forward to and making contributions on. We will then proceed to define our project objectives. And at this point, we will be melding stakeholder expectations into a set of goals. We will also state our goals explicitly at the outset of the project. And the project success will be measured by how well these goals are met. Objectives can also be redefined later in the project, and functions or people that may be affected by the project will also be highlighted. Within the planning phase still, we'll also look at scope, resources, and tasks, and we will then break this down into most manageable units. And this is the process which we are calling, using the tool called WBS. For those who are used to the lingo, the WBS is the work breakdown structure, which aids in determining the scope, tasks, as well as developing estimates for the project. What will we be doing, and how will we be accomplishing our tasks? We will continue asking this question within each task and subtask until those tasks and subtasks cannot be subdivided any further. We will also estimate time and cost, as well as provide for monetary and man hours during the project. We will also proceed to prepare for trade-offs. Time, cost, and quality will ultimately dictate what we can achieve. And what is normally referred to as PQ&T in project management language can interchange, and we may have to look forward to or anticipate trade-offs and the outcome of these trade-offs. A simple question would be, if your time is cut in half, what might that lead to? You may need to increase the number of men on the job. You may compromise on quality, which ultimately your stakeholder does not want. And there may be a raft of other potential outcomes from reducing your time to delivery in half. As we prepare for trade-offs, we also need to identify what the most important variables are for each of our stakeholders are within the project. And we ultimately need to keep the team informed on tweaks as we are looking at the trade-off and the likely outcome of those trade-offs. And here we are looking at, the trade-off between time, cost, and quality. So during the build-up stage, we will be assembling our teams, we'll be planning assignments, we'll be creating the schedules. We will also hold a kickoff meeting and develop the budget. And ultimately, budget is a big factor to consider during the big build-up phase. And we'll be coming to look at that in a little more detail shortly. In assembling our team, we will assess the required skills for the project. We'll also assess flows from the work breakdown structure, which we looked at in the planning phase. We might also need to bring in teams from other departments or other projects that we may be running that have the relevant skill sets that we are looking for. In the event that we don't have the desired or required skill sets, then we may need to plan for training and incorporate a budget for training of our teams so that we can achieve the required skill set and skill composition for the project. During the build-up phase, we'll also be planning assignments. We will list the people on the team, we will list the skills required, meet the team members, match people to task, and we will also initiate team communication and cohesion during the planning assignments within the build-up phase. So we will then proceed also to create the schedule. We will tally the do's, we will establish the time requirements vis-a-vis the available resources, get exactly what the stakeholders have asked for, and most projects have fixed open and closure dates. It then helps also, as we are creating the schedule, to work backwards from the closure date to be able to establish or revise timelines, as in the case where our time was reduced in half. We will then proceed to hold a kickoff meeting, which then brings the team together. The team can then go over the project plan and objectives, clarify roles and responsibilities. And at this phase, the strategic leadership of the project will encourage the team to identify problem areas and identify areas for improvement. There's always room for improvement. Then the team leadership should also take all suggestions seriously and adjust estimates and activities if this is required after the kickoff meeting. We will then proceed to develop a budget, and the budget is broadly asking what it will take to do the work. We will then proceed to break this down a little more into personnel, training, travel, supplies, space, research, etc. This will be bent towards the needs of the project or the nature of the project. And this draft budget can then be reviewed by a second set of eyes. And it's always good to have your drafts reviewed by a second set of eyes to be able to plug in any gaps that may have come through at the initial stage of drafting the budget. The actual numbers may then proceed to deviate from the budget during implementation, and it's important to be flexible between price, quality, and time, or cost, quality, and time. During the implementation phase, where everybody gets very excited, this is where you see the bulldozers on the ground, you see people digging the earth, you see all these nice, colorful items starting to appear. We will then start to monitor and control, report on project progress, hold weekly meetings, and ultimately manage the problems that arise. It tends to happen that when people get onto the ground, dynamics that may not have been anticipated present themselves. And there's common street lingo for this, which I will not delve into for purposes of keeping it formal. And we will now be monitoring and controlling the project. And here, like I mentioned, there's all the excitement because mobilization has been done, work actually begins to get done, and it's very important that the team maintains a big picture perspective and appreciate that whatever little thing they are doing within the project contributes to a desired outcome. Project monitoring software can help, and this is part of what our later presenters within this webinar are going to be talking about. There'll be a small demo on this, and we have the capacity to assist you implement some of these recommendations that will be coming through within the webinar. And it's very important to appreciate that no single approach works for all projects. It is very important for us to be collecting data and be able to respond quickly to any changes that may come through in the data. And it's also very important to build an ability to anticipate and identify early signs of these problems. We need to watch the real numbers vis-a-vis budget and have explanations for these variances. We anticipate that during implementation, we will not have large variances between what was put on paper and what then comes through at the implementation phase. Some of the items to look for that then lead to escalation of costs include overtime when we increase more men on the site, and consultants fees when we have to do redesign of the project. So during the reporting, the stakeholders will want regular updates and would like to know what is happening during the project. It is very important to establish the ideal level of detail required by the stakeholders. If they like it high level, then we can keep a summary. If the stakeholder wants a drill down into the details, we should be able to then give a drill down. And some of those opportunities for being able to have this flexibility will then also come through in the presentation that's following this highlight. So we need to look at emerging problems. and informed stakeholders will ultimately help if any crisis do arise during the implementation phase. In our weekly meetings, we should help with staying focused and enabling everybody to see how their little actions contribute to the ultimate bigger goal. We need to focus on what is essential for the project success, set clear meeting agendas, focus on production, revenue, goals, and other specifics that stakeholders would like to be informed about. We also need to look at what has been exceeded, met, or is falling behind schedule, and ultimately keep the team motivated. We also need to link activities to the bigger picture and objective. During implementation, problems will arise, and some of the problems with far-reaching consequences are time slippage, scope creep, quality-related challenges, and we ultimately have to keep the team that is delivering on the project as motivated and as happy as possible. We also need to pay attention to these developing and evolving problems and make sure that we solve these problems as quickly as possible. During the closeout phase of the project, we will evaluate project performance, close the project, and subsequently have a debrief with the team. And as we're evaluating performance, we need to establish that the goals have been met. We also need to look and compare progress vis-a-vis scope. What was the desired outcome? And this desired outcome is what then guides us to what will be consensus with the stakeholders as describing the project being finished. And we also need to keep the project scope in mind at all times. It's also very important for every participant within the project to be working using the same yardstick. We also need to wrap things up during the closeout of the project. There needs to be assumption of ownership in the event that the project was being done for in-house purposes. Should we have had an external client, we may be handing over, and we may be terminating a project. So during wrap-up, we may be looking at the various options or the various angles to wrap up. We also need to celebrate the successes of the project, recognize team effort, and evaluate if we were on time and on budget. During the closeout, we also have a debrief, and we will schedule a post-evaluation, document the progress, view this as an opportunity for discovery, look at the lessons we've learned in the process, and ultimately the lessons will guide us on ways to improve on how we deliver for future projects. I have a summary here on what we can call a successful project, and these are the ingredients for a successful project. First, you identified your project. Secondly, you defined your goals and objectives. Third, you defined your tasks, you built your team, you became aware of any project killers, which are normally referred to as project risks. You created a wonderful timeline, which you would call your baseline, and you worked as well as you could to ensure that you stayed on that baseline, getting feedback on the various actors or players within your project and using that feedback to improve on your delivery. And in the event that you needed to make any adjustments, flexibility is ultimately very, very important. Flexibility and agility. A little bit about Lights and the CPF group. Lights was previously the ICT department within the local authorities pension trust. And this is a defined benefit scheme that was closed to new members in 2012. We also then proceeded to set up the County Pension Fund, which is an umbrella defined contribution scheme that was set up in 2011. Within our ecosystem, we also have the individual pension scheme, and we have proceeded to enable that on a mobile platform, so you can register via *289# and run your own individual retirement saving arrangement via the IPP, which is mPension. And CPF Financial Services is owned by the various retirement schemes we have within the group and provides retirement benefits, administration, consultancy, and training services. We also run a trust fund that could assist you manage your trust-related expectations as you do your financial planning and mapping. We have Laser Property Services, which was previously the property department within Lab Trust. And we also have Laser Insurance Brokers to be able to provide you with a holistic service within your financial needs during your saving for retirement. And this slide gives you a brief historic background that Lab Trust, which was initially established as the Nairobi Municipality Superannuation Fund, was set up in 1929. So our history goes way back to 1929. And Lights was subsequently incorporated on the 19th of September 2013. Our main objective is to address the need for affordable IT and renewable energy services within Africa. And some of the products that we could provide you with are software and hardware solutions on the ICT side, and this is the area we're discussing today. We are also very happily providers of the renewable energy solutions that you may need within your ecosystem. We will be happy to come in and provide you with an energy audit and ultimately post-audit implementation assistance. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. I will take this opportunity to hand it over to Madam Mbide to progress with the rest of the session. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Tony Olang, who is the Executive Director of Lights. That was quite an elaborate presentation, and we certainly appreciate. Allow me just to ask you one or two questions. One of them has come from the audience. But in light of what we are discussing today, which is managing projects in times of uncertainty, you've discussed the execution, the implementation, and the closeout phase. Over the last 6 months, in the projects that you have engaged in, Tony, where has the most uncertainty brought itself? In other words, of the entire phase of project management, where do you see the highest risks, and what are some of the considerations today from where you stand? Over to you, Mr. Olang.
Thank you very much. I think the ecosystem we are operating in today has presented many challenges. Given that we are mostly doing remote work, I will use the slide to guide. And we are finding disintegration in the build-up and implementation, especially at this point in time, because there were projects that were already lined up at the time we got into this COVID situation. And for one reason or the other, you are unable to coordinate activities. You may have your human assets that you would like to be on the ground or participating in an event unavailable for one reason or the other. And some of them are as basic as lack of connectivity. Challenges include logistics. Cargo getting stuck at the port is also one very big challenge. Clearance of tax approvals by the KRA and related items. Those are some of the challenges that we've encountered during the COVID season. Over to you, Madam Mbide.
All right, thank you so much for that. We have a few questions from Clement Tongi, and he's asking which project management tool is being used and how has it helped the project team and the stakeholders? And the second part of that question is, how have you integrated agile approaches in the project implementation? Over to you, Mr. Olang.
Yes, thank you very much. I'll start with the agility requirement. I talked about regular meetings, holding weekly meetings, and in an agile approach, you deal with challenges as they present themselves, and which he has very correctly mentioned. The remote working tools have definitely improved on agility, and I must say, there's been a very heavy adoption of remote working tools. The project management software that we are discussing right now and that is currently in use within the CPF group, this is within our project management office, is Oracle Primavera. And we would be happy to engage a little bit more because we are going to have a demo later within this session. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you so much. That was Mr. Tony Olang giving us the welcome remarks as well as setting stage for today's conversation. Our conversation today is how do we manage projects in times of uncertainty? This is a webinar that has been brought to you courtesy of CPF Consulting, Lights and Laser Properties, all of which are subsidiaries of CPF Group Kenya. If you are joining us, a warm welcome to you. Alternatively, if you would like your peers to be part of this webinar, we would encourage you to invite them to check us out on the CPF Kenya page on YouTube as well as Facebook, where this webinar is streaming. Please put up any of your questions or commentary, and we will endeavor to be able to come back to you with our response. Now, let's get into the crux of this conversation. We are talking about risk and risk mitigation. Risk is a constant when it comes to the construction projects of all types and sizes. There has been a lot of uncertainty, whether it's locally or globally, and especially as we get into the second and third wave of COVID-19, whether it's locally or at a global stage. How do you manage projects, especially large projects, given these times of uncertainty? And what are some of the tools as well as products and services in the market that can help you get better visibility as well as be able to help you enhance your risk management processes when it comes to implementation and execution of projects? Mr. Tony Olang has given us an overview of this conversation. Now we will have our second presentation from Shafana Rajani, who is the Executive Director of Laser Properties. Shafana is a real estate professional with over 17 years of executive business management and leadership experience. 9 of these years have been in real estate management. Shafana currently leads the team responsible for property agency, residential commercial facilities management, valuation, property strategy, and project management at Laser Property Services, which is a subsidiary of CPF Group Kenya. Shafana holds a Master's of Arts degree and a Bachelor of Science degree in International Business Administration from the United States International University in Nairobi. She also holds a diploma in real estate from International Career Institute, USA, as well as several vocational certificates. Shafana is a member of the Marketing Society of Kenya, the Kenya Professional Realtors Association, the Institute of Surveyors of Kenya, and a registered real estate agent. She's also an alumni of Center for Corporate Governance and USIU-A. So Shafana will be taking us through what the company does and, in a sense, giving us an opportunity to understand how to manage risk in these uncertain times. Over to you, Shafana. Shafana, please unmute your mic and you can start us off. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Bithe. Good morning, everybody, and thank you for taking time from your beautiful Wednesday morning to join us today. I am honored to have this opportunity to serve as a panelist in today's event facilitated by CPF Consulting Limited. I will be providing an insight on the challenges faced in the real estate industry and how the Oracle Primavera product has the potential to assist resolve the same. So without further ado, I think my colleague Tony mentioned who Laser Property Services are. We are a subsidiary of the CPF Group, and we're a property subsidiary specifically. We were registered in 2013, so over the last 8 years, we have built a vast experience. Based on what we do, I'm hoping we can all see my screen, and we like to advise that we provide a full spectrum of real estate services. We provide the full spectrum. So when you buy a property, initially when you're buying it, you need a valuation. Sorry, my screen isn't changing. Madam Bithe, can you confirm that you can see it? Sorry,
yes.
Technical challenges.
Yes, Ms. Rajani, I can see your presentation. Maybe you can try and scroll to the next slide. It's very clear from where I am. Are you okay, or would you need some assistance?
It's the scrolling that's not going through. It's stuck at what we do in Laser.
Okay.
There we go.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much.
For that
Not to worry.
Apologies for that technical glitch. So what we do property and asset valuation. When you're looking to buy a property, you usually have to evaluate basically, and ascertain that what you're buying the value for is what you're paying for. So property and asset valuation is a service we provide. And then from there, you normally like to decide as a developer, what is it that I can do with this piece of land as an individual user? What is it that I can do with this land? Can I keep it as a land bank? Should I develop it? We come in and provide the investment and feasibility studies for this as well. From there, we do the project management and maintenance. Assumption is you have decided to build 3 blocks of apartments, 2-bedroom, 3-bedroom, 4-bedroom. This is normally guided from the market feasibility study that we provide to you. And from there, we can provide the project management and maintenance of it. And I think project management is what we will come back to, because for the product that we have been using from Oracle, it has really helped us with this aspect of our business, which is the project management and the maintenance component as well. Once you build, typically all developers want to sell the property, or you as a developer, as an end user, initially want to build and then sell the property. So we do sale and we do rentals of property as well. So we do outright sales from developers, from landlords who want to offload their property into the market. We assist the same. And we do facility management. What this basically involves is the running of the business of the property. This is the guards that you need, the cleaning services, the rent collection, service charge maintenance. This all would come under facility management, and we provide that as Laser Property Services. So the full spectrum of what we avail is the property and asset valuation, investment and feasibility studies, project management and maintenance, real estate agency, and property facilities management. So coming back to project management and maintenance, which is primarily the role we provide and the challenges in managing projects in times of this uncertainty, we undertake project management on behalf of the clients. Our main objective is through the professionals that we have at Laser Property Services is to ensure that the set objectives of a high quality development are achieved in a cost-effective way. Now, these are the main highlights, being set objectives, because with every development, you normally have at the beginning of a project, the set objectives. You do intend to have a high quality development, any developer would, and cost effectiveness is imperative to project management. We also manage matters pertaining to repairs, maintenance, and renovation of property on behalf of property owners. So when it comes to projects, it's usually not just a new project that we're looking at. It's not a new development. It could be maybe the renovation of an existing building that has been that has run down over years, and we come and do the renovation for it. What we do is we inspect the need and advise on the scope of works required. If it's something that we feel is not viable, we do advise accordingly. We source for quotations for required works. We supervise implementation by service providers to ensure good quality. Upon completion, we do advise for payments. So for the developers and the service providers in the house, what we do is we verify the IPCs, interim payment certificates, and provision of specialized consultants. This is typically your mechanical engineers, your architects, your project managers. We provide the full spectrum to enable the full project management of the project. Just to give you an insight on a few of the projects that we have done in project management as Laser Property Services. What we're seeing is Freedom Heights Mall. It's in Langata. It's a standalone mall with, it's a mixed use development, which has a mall and 252 apartments. So what we're seeing is 252 apartments of 2-bedroom, 3-bedroom, and 4-bedroom layout. Typically, the setup of the project was, it has a service plot that is dedicated to serving the mall and the residents at the apartments. There's reticulated gas supply. So typically, you don't need to get your cylinders and your mtungis of gas to the development, to the residences. This is supplied through piped gas. There is a standby generator. We have the bulk power supply for this development. And there's borehole services as well as the usual county water supply. So all these services to the mall and the apartments are actually managed from a central service plot, which provides the utilities to this. So we're minimally dependent on the utility providers within Nairobi County. The other project we have is Naserian Home, which is in Karen. This is a 1.5 billion shilling project. It is 30 townhouses set on 20 acres of land. We have successfully done the project management for this. Completion was March of 2020. Currently, the sales are ongoing for this development. This is one of the villas. Typically, it's 6,500 square feet for a 5-bedroom villa on 3 floors. Sales are ongoing. So again, just to allow a pitch, if you're interested, do let us know. And we have a couple of units available. We also have another magnitude of a project we did, which is the Nova Pioneer Schools in Eldoret. This is a boys and girls secondary school. For this project specifically, it was launched in June 2019. And as Laser Property Services, with the services of the contractor, we managed to finish phase 1 of it in 129 days. So the project launched in June, and by December, we had actually handed over the first phase to the tenant. It was a built-to-suit project. So the entire school, once complete, will be able to accommodate educational facilities and boarding facilities for 1,600 students. This is being done in 4 phases based on what Nova required us to do. But phase 1 is already operational. However, because of the government directives, it's not operational currently. And we have recently completed phase 2. We're just snagging it. And phase 3 and 4 will be done in good time by next year in 2022. So coming down to the gist of the discussion, what are the typical challenges? I know Tony mentioned a few of them. And to highlight, as project managers, what are the challenges we have faced in project management? One very prominent one is project delays. This is mainly because of time and task management. We have to put things together. Is it the supply of material? Is it the provision of services from consultants? Is it payment? Is it design approvals? So project delays usually are a combination of all these issues that come together for any developer. The other issue that we've seen very prominent is data management, where I may be holding my information in an Excel, and then we have my architect who is holding it in ArchiCAD. We have the specific QSs, we have the various engineers. Everybody is holding their data in a different format, in a different location. Bringing all this together in a project management portal has been one of the major challenges, as well as the delays. Timely and efficient reporting, again, like I said, from data management, everybody is holding their data in a different format, in a different location, in a different template. So when it comes to providing timely and efficient reporting, we find that this has been a challenge. Coordination of service providers, the consultants, engineers, contractors, they don't have one central point where they come in to consolidate and understand. It's normally the phone calls here, the emails there, coordinating, has the materials come in. We've really lacked that, and it has caused us major issues in project management. We have another issue, which is acts of God, which is one of the things we're facing right now with the COVID pandemic, where typically if you have a site, ongoing site development going on, and then you have a case of COVID, what typically usually happens is the site is closed for 2 weeks. All the staff that are there, the casual laborers, the contractors, they're all sent away for quarantine for 2 weeks before the site can be opened again. So such acts of gods, you also have weather. When you're doing a foundation, you may have a period where you have excessive rain. What happens is you have to stop digging the foundation and then wait for the rain to subside and then come back and do your foundations. Now, this is normally managed on a time to time because everything, it's kind of a domino effect. So if the laying of the foundation is delayed, you are expected then to either catch up or forecast that there will be a delay to the project delivery. So acts of God here, unfortunately, we can't do anything. We do work around that. But with the others, we are able to then sort it out with the Oracle Primavera product that we have recently begun using. Political interference and environment, again here, it's something that we will be going into an elections year in the next 1-2 years. We'll be campaigning. So sometimes there's a lot of interference, and then there's the environment that is created from there. If you have clashes going on somewhere, your casuals may not be able to report to work. Depending on where your development is, you may have certain interference again from the political environment. Cost management, I remember Tony mentioned that earlier in this webinar. Cost management has always been an issue where you find developments that have started. Towards the tail end of the project, you're actually identifying that this project in reality has not been viable. When it comes to resales, you find that the resale value of these apartments that you have built is way above where the market rates are. This is mainly because ineffective cost management has been implemented right from the beginning. Cost management does not start at the tail end of the project. It starts right from the beginning. From when you have feasibilities done, these feasibilities normally guide cost management. So it's up to the project manager to make sure that the development is in line with the schedules that have been availed. And lastly, we have the availability of real-time information. We've always seen scenarios where today and now we're looking at data and figures based on 3 weeks ago, 1 month ago, because the real-time data is not available. If the contractor is available to provide that, the QS is not available to provide the figures. We've all been in project managers as developers, and availability of real-time information has been a challenge that we have now been able to see resolved with the product that we have. So that has been the highlight of the challenges, and we have been using, as a case study, we have been using the Oracle Primavera product over the last 6 to 8 months to resolve some of these challenges we have been facing as project managers. And we're quite happy with the product so far. It has helped us to sort out majority of the challenges we have been facing. And yeah, as I pass back to Madam Bithi, maybe I can just say that we are, the details are shared on your screen. We are available to provide any consultancy that you may require, and we're happy to be of service. Thank you once again.
Thank you, Ms. Rajani, for that elaborate presentation. I cannot begin to imagine the headache that you and your team have to go through, especially in times of uncertainty. Before we go to the product demonstration, allow me to ask you this. When it comes to using this particular product from Oracle, you say you have been engaging with it over the last 6 to 8 months. Maybe you can demonstrate either in terms of savings in terms of cost, savings in terms of time, savings in terms of any specific risk, in terms of what your greatest challenge was and how have you been able to overcome that challenge more specifically using the Oracle product. If you can answer that, we would appreciate. Over to you, Ms. Rajani.
Sure, thank you. So from cost management perspective, the product does provide a very robust module in cost management. So it's real time. Every time there's any raw material that is bought and to the site, there's a cost element that is attached to it. Also from a time management perspective, we are able to actually manage every task on a time-based basis. And this has an overall impact on the delivery of the project. So tomorrow, if you are asked by your developer, will this project finish on time? Based on the delays that you have seen, be it COVID, be it delay in supply of material, be it any issues you may have on the labor forces, you are able to then allocate any delays or any timely deliveries to each task. And this task then has an overall impact on the delivery of the project. So you are able to then confirm to your developer whether you're able to manage the cost efficiently and whether you will be able to complete the project in good time.
All right. Thank you so much for that, Rajani. One other question is, when you were taking up this particular product from Oracle, did it mean that you needed to get new staff complement to be able to use this particular product, or was it as easy as plug and play and use it immediately after purchase? Over to you, Ms. Rajani.
No, we did not have to increase our workforce. In fact, it even helped us manage our workforce better meaning we had people who were previously spending a lot of time doing a lot of the report writing and detail writing in other platforms, now able to manage their time more efficiently because of the product. So we just had to come in and train our existing staff on the use of the product, as well as our consultants and partners, be it the contractors. We just provided the training, and from the training, they were able to pick up the product user competence immediately and run with them from there. So we've just seen a little bit more efficiency in terms of our output from our staff.
All right, thank you so much. That was Ms. Rajani, who is the Executive Director of Laser Properties. She's given us an overview of the kind of projects that she manages and how she's been able to integrate her current operations using the Oracle products and in a way be able to enhance efficiency, whether it's in terms of delivery on time and management of cost and the other resources required for these big ticket items. Now let's get to the second part of this conversation. This is a webinar brought to you courtesy of CPF Consulting, and we are discussing managing projects in times of uncertainty. We've started off with an overview of who Lights and Laser Properties are and what they do in relation to project management. We've had a use case by Ms. Rajani talking to us about the work that she does and the interplay between what she does and the products that Oracle presents to the market. Now we want to have a conversation from the team at Oracle. They will be making an introduction with regards to the Oracle Construction and Engineering Global Business Unit. And this will be started off by Mr. Cedric Tsika, who is the Regional Manager for East Africa at Oracle. And after Mr. Cedric Tsika, we will have a demonstration of this product by Mr. Patrick Kimwaki. Allow me to introduce Mr. Cedric Tsika. He is the Regional Manager for East Africa at Oracle Global Business Unit. Cedric is a recognized sales management and business development professional known for crafting the requisite strategic vision to achieve business goals. Cedric offers a unique blend of more than 20 years progressive executive acumen, leadership and IT solution sales and development, credited with strong return on investments and operational environment for his customers, primarily within the ICT, government, education, scientific research, development and business services sectors. He will be taking us through what does Oracle Construction and Engineering Global Business stand for, and thereafter we will have a presentation from his colleague demonstrating the actual product that Ms. Rajani has been using. Cedric, kindly unmute your mic and start off with your presentation. Over to you, Mr. Tsika.
Thank you very much. And ladies and gentlemen, welcome on site. Thank you for joining us today. And I want to start off by basically just introducing who my team is. They're also here. They're helping with the Q&As, all the questions that you basically have today. But needless to say, it's really been a very difficult time for us, for all of us. And global data basically also shows, how the pandemic has really been a shock to so many economies in the world. And what this has basically done is it has disturbed the GDP. It has basically brought it down to about 4.2%, as you see in 2020. But then we also see that many governments are also trying to see how they can actually simulate most of these programs, using public infrastructure development. So there's opportunity for a lot of us in the construction industry at this particular stage. Turner & Townsend, on the other hand, also did a bit of homework and decided to do a survey out of Australia to look at how the pandemic has really affected the market. I don't want to jump into a lot of these. I think both Tony and Shafana have basically also illustrated a couple of these things, going forward. And I won't really take much of your time, but I want to say, if you look at this slide at the moment, at this report, what you can basically see is a lot of these aspects have basically been affecting us here in Africa too. So there is not much change that's been happening. But let's start off a little bit and talk about Oracle and how Oracle fits in. A lot of people know us as a database organization. So when it comes to construction and engineering, we always have these questions. Who are you? What do you really do? So we're going to talk a little bit about who we are, what we stand for, and basically the value that we deliver to the business. So you may know Oracle as a very huge organization with over 140,000 employees across the world. But it's also important for us to take note that inside of this engine, we've got 8 autonomous global business units that are basically industry built, and they also bring in the industry and expert DNA into the market as well. So we've got one for retail, we do have one for financial services, construction and engineering. We also have one for food and beverage, utilities as well. But today we're going to talk about construction and engineering, which started about a decade ago with the acquisition of a product called Primavera, a 35-year plus product that basically is an industry standard when it comes to project management. Since then, we've built upon this foundation with strategic acquisitions such as Unifier, Textura, and the most recent Aconex. Now, the reason why we did this is we strategically selected all these different products and put them together, not just for what they are as products, but also for the people behind them, who are technology leaders and experts from an industry perspective. So what we then did is we decided our mission is really to help owners and delivery teams plan, build, and operate, but how to also do it cheaper, better, faster, fairer, smarter, and safer. So as such, you will also then discover that when we are delivering this kind of projects, it's not one organization that's involved, it's several organizations. And with that, each organization basically comes in with their different type of tools. So you then find that there's a lot of silos that are now by department, by organization, and all these silos are basically then introducing black boxes that lead to no control and no visibility over the projects that we're actually delivering. No wonder why most of these projects then are delivered late and above budget. So what Oracle Construction and Engineering has basically done is based on the ISO standard 19650-2, we have built a common data environment for us to basically say all the information that basically happens from a plan build perspective and operate itself. How do we make sure that this information is reusable? So what we've done is we've built a data science on top of that, that then will help you with a very good, secure platform, comprehensive information, always connected. So you're getting almost real-time updates at any given point. But then above all, you're actually building a data lake that then is going to give you a common data environment for you to have insights and continuous improvement to the projects that you'll be delivering. We have proven teams. So this has basically been working for us. It has worked for us. And what we've then basically also done is we've connected with our partners, with all the industry leaders, where we've actually put up an innovation lab in Chicago, free for all to actually go and see. But what we are basically doing here is looking at how all these technology that's coming in, that's being developed, which we use from a construction and engineering perspective, can then be used in the data that all these different technologies are using. How can we bring it back to give you insights? So, ladies and gentlemen, we really are in a project-based world. And everything that gets measured can get managed. And we are trying to do this. We have all sorts of technology. There was a poll question that was posed earlier, and we all actually did say that we do have tools that we are using to try and manage our projects. And yes, the tools are there. For collaboration, we're even starting to use WhatsApp for business as well. But is this the best standard? Are these standalone tools? What we are basically saying is we're doing our plans in different tools. And we're basically also doing our reports in different tools. We're capturing all the information that's happening with our projects in different tools. And we're also then basically storing this information in folder-based structures. It doesn't matter in what platform, whether it's sitting on a server, or it's sitting on a Dropbox, or it's sitting on whichever type of media that you may be actually keeping all of this. But let's do this. Let's do a drill down to one of the tools that we are using at the moment, which is a very powerful tool, great, but also fragile when touched by the human fingers. Now, statisticians want us to basically believe that nearly 9 out of 10 spreadsheets contain errors. So chances are, ladies and gentlemen, you've probably messed up a spreadsheet too. Well, let me not just say, but if you have seen that guy before, they used to call him Clippy, but Clippy was as an intelligence assistant for Office a long time ago. I think it was Office 97. Anyway, let's look at a couple of spreadsheet disasters that I have actually put together. I will not drill down into all of them, but I've picked 5. What you're seeing here is either a mistake that was made on Excel by mistakenly typing a different digits over another, or a copy paste, or a cut and paste. Whichever direction that you actually took, whichever direction that all these organizations basically took, led to a lot of money, as you can see on this screen, being lost. So what we believe is you need an excellent system of record. It's basically going to be able to give you, but that is only and only if compliance is important and you're serious about it. But you need a system that will give you an audit trail and capture that information, store it in one repository, such that you'll be able to use it over and over and over again for continuous improvement. And how we've been helping organizations is basically by ensuring that whatever your project is, whatever the programs you have, we can give you an integrated project delivery platform that then connects your teams from a collaboration perspective, brings in your information, and ensures that your project's delivery is done based on the data insights that you are basically bringing on board, but also ensuring that there's assurance, governance, risk mitigation, as well as project controls and decision support. So we've had Tony talk about a lot of the things that you see here, how you start from ideation all the way until you get to building and actually operating your asset. And this is one of the key things that we are very great at. Now, what is important is when you understand the life cycle within the projects you're actually delivering, there are a few things that are key and that we need to actually do. It's a plan, build, operate phase. But what is very important here is if you adopt a common data environment, you are able to then have a digital handover at every single stage. And that is what is key. Stakeholders are also important. And what our tools basically do is they provide whatever your mandate is from whichever stakeholder you are within the project lifecycle. We have a benefit that you will actually have as well. So what we believe is it's time for change, but with change comes fear. And believe you me, we know, we understand. I would fear as well to basically do anything else, to try new things. But this is not new that we're talking about. We're talking about a product that has been in existence since 1997. So yes, you can be comfortable. Organizations are basically now looking into digital transformation. And in the build environment, we can basically see a lot of this happening in the UK, the US, Singapore. We also see a lot of this also happening in Germany, Australia, Canada. And in Africa, we are also starting to see a lot of organizations wanting to basically leverage digital transformation to improve how they basically deliver their projects and how they work. And we know that within the construction industry, we are utilizing different systems for different purposes. They will have a document management system, a QS system, a cost system. You will also have a scheduling system, and many others. Projects choose the right systems for the industry. So who is in control, the project or the project owner? However, as these systems are adopted, they are used in silos, as we explained earlier. So what we basically are saying is we take the same systems that you're using, but we give you a platform where you've got a common data environment that then you'll be able to still continue to use those systems, but have a central repository for your information, for your data. Now, from a construction software perspective, the areas in which Oracle basically plays is the entire life cycle. So from your portfolio management to your design, construction, and coordination, to basically your project controls, contract management, whichever contract it is. If you're in government and doing government projects, FIDIC, we understand that language. Our tools speak that language, so we are ready for it. But then the data analytics that we are actually providing then becomes very key. So the reason why we are here today is because we have said it is time for us to flap things up a little bit. And for this to be able to happen, what we basically need is our people. So change is a constant. And Cinderella is proof that a new pair of shoes can change your life. What we're basically saying is, let's actually start looking at how we actually do this. J.R.R. is a well-known author for fantasy works like The Hobbit and The Lord of the Rings. And when he was asked what brought him to that success, he basically said, I wisely started with a map. I wisely started with a map. The rest of the story fit in. And Tony mentioned earlier that what we basically also need to do is start with a similar map so that then we are able to actually say, what is it are we trying to solve and where are we going? So with our tools, we've been looking at how do we look at it from a different perspective where you have to flap and then you have to learn, you have to apply the things you've learned, but also be able to predict what might happen to your projects. Is this something that is easy to do? Well, tell you what, they told us it's tough, but no one actually said it was impossible. So why you're here today is because we're putting you on a highway where change has to basically happen. And for this journey, like any other journey that we've all been on, we've always thought about how we start onto our journey by looking into the problems we're trying to solve. Then we get into the flap stage. And I think you're still wondering what I mean by flan. But we get into the flan stage where we basically are saying, can we also look at where we want to go and how we also want to evolve as we go? But also, let's take a stock and learn from the benchmarks that we've already set with the data we already have. Apply that information, predict it, and be able to change the way we actually do things. So by FLAN, I basically mean flexible planning. Being able to have a plan that's feasible, forward-looking, is what you need, basically. So to do this, let's verify what you already have. Let's identify how to actually make use of the data you're about to also collect, but also put it in such a great structure that will be able to help us look into what our schedule is, what are we trying to actually resolve from a schedule perspective, from a cost perspective, from a quality perspective, also from a safety and risk. What are the things are we really, really trying to resolve? But like they say, when we have to start on a journey, it's the first step that counts. And today, we are here to make that step count. So my colleague, Patrick Kimwaki, is going to help us understand a little bit of all of these things. We see a lot of PowerPoints every time. We have a lot of talk, but people always wonder, how is it can we basically then get on a position or in a situation where we get all of these things in a practical field? So Patrick is going to pick this conversation up, and he's going to pick this conversation up and basically show a little bit of a scenario within this industry, within the construction industry. We're going to pick one industry, one scenario that's going to look at risk, project risk. How are you managing it at the moment? Then we will look at how we basically deliver mitigation with our tools, but also empower you as an organization to deliver your projects on time, on budget, and beyond expectation. Patrick.
All right. Thank you so much for that, Mr. Tsiga. It's a very passionate call to change. And I certainly like the example that you've shared, that there's nothing that's impossible with new shoes. Certainly that touches a nerve on my part. But I like that you have shown the fact that we are in uncertain times and there are tools to help us just get from point A to point B. So I'd like to encourage our audience, please keep your questions coming. We'll have about 10 to 15 minutes set aside after Patrick's demonstration. For your benefit, we were to end this at about 11:30. I will beg for your indulgence for an additional 10 to 20 minutes. Reason being that we've had so much, we are learning so much, but we don't want to end this without being able to address your specific questions. So I will introduce Patrick, who will be giving us an overview of how do we then take the theories that we've had and put them into practice. Mr. Patrick Kimwaki is a senior sales consultant for East and West Africa for Oracle Construction and Engineering Global Business Unit. Mr. Patrick has over 15 years of experience in portfolio management, project management, resource management, and financial management. Patrick currently handles pre-sales consultancy for Oracle's Primavera Enterprise project and portfolio management solutions. Patrick will start us off with a brief presentation, and then he will give us a demonstration of what we are discussing on a day-to-day usage. Patrick, kindly unmute your mic, put on your camera, and over to you.
Thank you, Madam Bithe. Thank you for all the other panelists and the audience as well. We're happy to have you here. So for the purposes of the demo is just to show you what we mean by the solution. So in this world of, the new world as we know it, the product Oracle Primavera Cloud is a cloud-only solution. So you don't need to set up servers. You don't need to buy equipment. So this is what we call a cloud-only solution. You'll be having a one version because we maintain the upgrades, the maintenance, and all that. And you'll also see that the UI is very simple. It's a very simple system to use. And more importantly, you have the integration between the various components that you need to manage your project. So I'll take you through a scenario, a use case of how this can be applied to solve some of the challenges in the industry. So I'm passionate about the Expressway project. There's a lot of pain though for the people who live along Mombasa Road. But I've just taken this as a use case that we want to use. So let's assume the Expressway project is starting sometime in September. We expect it to finish in 2 years. Give and take, a couple of delays. So when you baseline this project, when you start off and sign off the contract, this is what you are, this is what we call a baseline. This is what we call a starting plan. But what happens 2 months after the fact? We now need to measure progress. How much work have we completed in those 2 months? So what we'll show you is how you compare your original plan versus the progress made, because this is a big pain for the project managers, you know, in the audience today. So what I'm showing you now is you can actually compare the current schedule with a revised schedule where we've been affected by reduced hours. Initially, as you remember, we had reduced hours when the pandemic was really, you know, we had lockdowns and all that. So what happened in that case, most organizations would say, instead of working 8 hours, you work 6 hours so that you can, you know, beat traffic and go home before the curfew. So in that case, a task that would have taken 8 hours will still take 8 hours, but over 2 days, as opposed to finishing in a single day. So what you're seeing here is a simulation of what would happen when you reduce hours. And then the system will also show you the new activities that have been added if you're comparing between the 2 plans. And also we'll give you an overview of where that task has been added and how it fits in with the rest of the plan. So that's one use case. The next use case is what has been identified by all the panelists about how do we manage risk. So in this case, we've got a project that is 2 years old, or it's, you know, we have a build plan of 2 years. But given the risk that we see, are we actually going to finish on time? So that's the question we are going to answer today. So traditionally, you have planners sitting in one tool. They could be using their favorite tools. You've got the estimators who look at the cost or the impact of that risk. And then you've got the various risk managers who look at that risk and say, how can we classify this? But you as a project manager, you who is responsible for delivering this project, we usually get asked a simple question like, what is our chance of finishing this project on time? And usually the best answer you might have is, look, I have got my, you know, I have my plan in my favorite tool. It doesn't matter what it is, but I also have a risk register which has 30 risks. And out of those 30 risks, 10 are red. But still that doesn't give you an answer of saying, how far are we from completion? But what we do within our product, we've got the 3 disciplines working in the same tool, so that when you look at this data in, you know, you do a simulation, you look at this data together, you are saying, I've got my ability to finish this project on time is at 75%. But if you approve my mitigation plan, I can get it to 95%. So you are now telling management that I'm at 75% probability of finishing on time, but if you approve my plan, we can get it to 95. Then you're able to have a more, you know, intelligent conversation you can show with data, and you're likely to get an approval. So I'm going to show you how we can, you know, attach the risk register, you know, to the schedule, because you'll find that most people will have MSP to manage their schedule, but they use Excel, for instance, for managing, you know, risk. The challenge with that is they're not integrated. So for instance, here we are talking about a contract delay risk, and we can see clearly it's affecting this process called contract process. And then the question that comes in all the time is, what will the risk do to my end date? And you can see clearly here that if I've got these risks and I don't do anything to them, my chance of finishing on time is 27%. Instead of finishing on the 23rd of June, I'm more likely to finish, you know, eight months later. You know, that's the kind of answers that you want. But also, we know that identifying a risk is not enough. You need to be able to apply mitigation measures so that you can show how you can save time, pull back the project. And in this case, we've taken the same risks, applied mitigation measures, and now we are seeing that our project is more likely to finish, you know, at 58% probability. And instead of finishing on the 23rd of June, we are likely to finish on the 1st of September. So you are able now to improve your risk mitigation. You might, you know, the management might still say, look, 58% is still not good enough, but you are able to go back, apply mitigation measures, and then you know, run an analysis and do, you know, and check whether that has improved. So What I'll do now is just to show you how this solution looks like. Let me share my screen. So this is the Oracle Primavera Cloud. As you can see, I've got a very good dashboard that tells me what's happening. I can see the viewer where that project is located. I can see the risks that are attached to this project. I can see there are 7 active risks, a couple of them that are proposed. I could also go back and see what is the, sorry, yeah, what's happened here? So right from my dashboard, I'm able to view the project data. As you can see, this is live data. I got the various activities. I got a couple of activities, and these are things that project managers do every day. You know, they want to know how many activities have started, how many are in progress. And you've got the ability to drill down directly into the tool, into the project activities themselves. So I've got my project here. As you can see, it's a 2-year project. I've got the various activities that make up that project. I've got the cost that also rolls up to see how much will that project cost. And the first thing that one needs to do is, what are the activities that I need to work on? We've got something we call a spotlight. So by turning this on, the system tells me these are the activities that I should be working on right now. And as you can see, for instance, this is in progress from 23rd to 12th. Very quickly, you're able to see this is what I need to be updating. I could also now do a simulation and say, what would happen if we have a second wave and then we have reduced hours? So here, very quickly, I'm able to look at a scenario where I've got reduced hours. And you can see now the reduced hours, you know, using this calendar of reduced hours, it pushes out the same activities by, you know, not by increasing the number of hours, but increasing the duration of the project, because an activity that was supposed to take 1 day of 8 hours will now take, let's say, 2 days, because we can only do 5 hours a day, for instance. So it pushes out the days, it pushes out the finish date, and now you're able to compare. Before you actually make these changes to be permanent, you can come and sit with your board, your management committee, and tell them, look, if I compare between the original plan and so if we say, let's compare our current schedule versus a reduced base hours. As you can see, this is live data. You are doing it on the system. You can see very clearly now here that if we compare between the current schedule versus reduced hours because of the pandemic, we've got a finish date that is going to be pushed out by another, another 2 years. So we see that this project will now be delayed by 2 years. I could also see the new activities that have been introduced by the new, revised plan. We can see we now have to buy PPEs. And I could also look at the schedule comparison in detail and see how many activities have we actually added, what are the new relationships, what are the new resource assignments, and you're able to manage your schedule comparison this way. I do remember Shafano was talking about the scenarios that come in when a pandemic comes in. So first of all, what would happen in terms of procurement, getting supplies cleared at the port, getting people delayed from coming to work. So you're able to plan out the scenarios here before you actually approve them. Very, very powerful way of managing your project. The other thing you can do is once you analyze this scenario, we know that COVID will not last forever. So we also got another scenario where we call it a recovery plan, because we had a shutdown plan. Now we are in the recovery plan. So again, what I'm going to show you is how do you manage from a shutdown to a recovery? So as you can see here, we've got, this is what we call a standard full-time calendar, where you've got the 8 hours. When you look at a recovery plan, you'll have a combination of the full working hours. As you can see here, these are the, when we had the restrictions, so you have the reduced hours, but going forward, because we think we are under control, or we are controlling the pandemic, we can go back to the original working hours. And you can see how the effect of that plays into your scenario comparison. So I could again come here and then do another comparison and say, what is now the effect of the original plan versus our recovery plan? Because now we need to manage the scenarios as they come. So in this case, I'll just be able to compare between the original plan versus the recovery plan, because we want to see how will we end up in terms of forecasting the end date. And you can see the project completion has been affected, but not to the extent we originally thought. So in this case, we see that we were supposed to finish 23rd of June, but now we see we'll be able to finish just maybe we've added more resources and we're able to pull back a couple of days. The other thing that is important is managing your risk within the project. So we have a risk register that is attached to this risk here, to this project. So within the system, you've got the various applications or the various functionalities. So you've got your risk register. So instead of having a plan, an independent plan, you also have a plan with the risk register. So here is the risk register. I've just opened it here. You can see the various risks. I could then come and do a risk analysis and say, based on the risks that I have on the project, what is the probability of me finishing on time? And the system tells me that if you're expecting to finish on time, your chance of doing that on time is only 27%. So instead of finishing on the 23rd of June, you're more likely to finish on the 22nd of March. And that gives you 193 days delay. So it tells you that if you've got these risks and you don't do anything about them, you're not going to, the chances of finishing on time are very slim. And we know that part of a risk manager's job is to manage risks. So in this case, I'll come here, look at my projects, monitor them, plan my risk responses, say, what will I do? Because for instance, if I've got political protests that are coming in, what will I do? What can I do? I need to engage the communities. I need to build consensus. I need to look at what can I, for instance, there was that tree, that the 100-year tree that was in the line of fire in terms of it was preventing the highway from passing through. So in that case, the best solution was not to use force. The best case was to negotiate and go and talk to these people and say, okay, fine, we can change the bridge where it's supposed to be. But when we change that bridge, what will it do to the schedule? So in this case, we ran a risk analysis. And because it's a post response, in other words, we've mitigated the risk. Let's now look at how the plan looks like. So what you have now is a risk analysis showing you that if we manage the risks that we've got in our project, our chances still of finishing on time is at 58%. Again, it's not as good as it should be. And the system allows you to come and say, what else can we remove? What other risk can we attack so that this timeline improves? And the system tells you that if you attack risk number 4, you're more likely to improve your project completion time. And again, you go back, do the risk analysis until you get to an acceptable level of risk in terms of your finish date and the acceptable limits that you can delay a project by. The other thing you can do is to compare between doing something and not doing something, because sometimes the risk might be minimal and you're asking yourself, is there any benefit of actually taking risk mitigation measures? So in this case here, you do an analysis between a pre-response, in other words, I've got a risk, but I'm not doing anything about it, and a post-response, where you simulate a situation where if I were to apply those risk mitigation measures, what would be the effect? And in this case, it shows me that the difference between doing something and not doing something about the risk is 144 days. And this is significant. So you can now go back to management and say, look, we have to consider mitigating this risk because we are going to be late by 144 days. And similarly, you can do that for cost, and the other elements as well in terms of duration and all that. Madam Bithe, I want to stop there. There's just one thing I want to show before we can open the questions. The other thing that is now common, we all use WhatsApp, to communicate, to collaborate. So one of the things we also enable within the project system is discussions or discussion forums. So when you've got a particular activity that you are discussing with your colleagues, I could come here and tag them so that the project data stays in a simple, in a central place. So I'm just going to send here and say, look, how far is the bridge redesign? So instead of using WhatsApp, instead of using, non-project system, now we've got all the history regarding this activity on the same particular, in the same central platform, so that this data is now usable to everyone who is working on this project.
Okay.
I'm conscious on time, and I would want to open up for questions.
All right. Thank you so much, Patrick, for that demonstration. I think you had me to the semblance of WhatsApp. And what you're really just bringing out is the fact that you can manage internal resources without running the risk of leakage of proprietary information, whether it relates to an internal project or an external project. I'd like to invite you, ladies and gentlemen, just to bring out your questions, your concerns, any commentary. We are running live on the CPF group page on YouTube. You can also follow CPF Kenya or CPF Group if you like on Twitter or Facebook. Now we are getting into the question and answer. I know we've a little bit ran over time, but all of these presentations were very, very important. We started off with the Executive Director of Lights, that's Mr. Tony Olang, setting the stage and saying, we are in uncertain times, but look here, this is what we can do for you. We are able to provide you with products and or services as Lights that help you mitigate against risk. Thereafter, we had our second presentation from Ms. Shafana Rajani, who is the Executive Director for Laser Properties. She engages in large ticket size projects and has been making use of the Oracle Primavera product over the last 68 months. And what we had from her, in essence, a testimonial was the fact that she has better visibility of the risks and is able to manage them, largely using and integrating her own operational systems with Oracle Primavera, just to be able to have a better visibility of the impact of cost, on the impact of time delays, on the execution and completion of some of the projects that she engages in. Then we had a presentation from Mr. Cedric Ziger, who's part of the Oracle construction team, and he gave us an overview of some of the risks that we are facing today, especially when it comes to the real estate sector. He gave us a use case of Australia as a country and what is happening with COVID-19. COVID-19 is certainly an event that has been brought about by God, or is considered as a God event, quote unquote, when it comes to the risk management lingo. And this particular event is getting into the second wave in Kenya, third wave globally, and has an overreaching impact when it comes to execution of projects. Patrick then took us through the practicality of each and every single thing we have been talking about. If you change your cost element, what does that mean? With COVID-19, your staff force, whether internally or on the ground, the people who are executing, if there's a delay in man hours, what does that mean in terms of the delay of the project? Which in essence enables you to make much better decisions in terms of cost allocation, in terms of resource allocation, and more importantly, communicating with the end users or the recipients of the products or services that you are using. Certainly something that I appreciate. With that background, I would encourage you, what questions do you have in place? I have a few questions here on our chat box, on our question and answer session, but if you are watching, I'd like to hear additional questions that then I can be able to front to our panelists. We will be done in about 5 or so minutes where I'll take the question and answers. Then I'll pass it over back to Mr. Tony Olang to give us the closing remarks and sort of just bring us to a point of what is the next call to action. We've also had a couple of survey questions popping up on your screen. I'd like you to answer the last one, and I think part of the administration team will be able to share the results of today's survey. So I'll start us off with the questions that we actually have in place for today. Our first commentary comes from Anastasia Musembi, and she says, "Hi, Patrick. Your presentation is very informative. I would like to know how to use Primavera Cloud and where can one learn this?" So I'll pass that back to Patrick, and we are still taking questions and answers, and I'll be able to have also follow-on questions and answers to the different panelists. Patrick, please unmute your mic if possible. Please put on your camera, and you can be able to take us through the first question.
Thank you. Thank you for that question. So as an easier way of answering that, we've got Lights, who is our partner in this area, but also we could give you like a YouTube channel where you can watch some of these things. But Lights would be the best person in terms of implementing the solution for you, guiding you, because there's still a lot of handholding that is required. But we can provide a YouTube channel where if you just want to learn about the tool, we can be able to provide that. Maybe Let me do that in the meantime while we take other questions. I'll look for the link and post it on the.
All right, fantastic. Thank you so much for that. I think the next question is for Mr. Cedric Ziga. You and your team at Oracle Construction have demonstrated the use of Oracle Primavera, especially when it comes to the real estate sector. Are there any other use cases in any other industries, people who would benefit from this, or is this particular product relegated for construction and the real estate sector? Cedric, please unmute your mic and put on your camera and help us answer this question.
Thank you. It's a good question, and everyone will always ask this, But maybe I should answer it this way, and bring back the conversation, or maybe an ask that was made earlier around how we approach Agile and how we also do, whether we approach Agile as well. That's where I want to start off. So if you look at your screen at the moment, what you basically see is how Agile basically works. Now, the two systems between Agile and Waterfall, they're different, and they're different in this perspective. The one, Agile works more for IT-related projects. So if you're doing software development, Agile is the kind of direction you want to go. I don't know if it's at all possible, if anyone has ever heard of a construction building that was probably done, and because there was a land dispute, we had to move the foundation and put it on another, as you can see on this on the Agile process. So the construction and engineering tools are more capable or suitable for the construction industry itself, more than they are outside of. But what you can then do is, if you put a hybrid, if you're taking it from a hybrid perspective between the two tools, you will be able to then gain value, because there are things that from most of the tools that are available which can support Agile do not do. So you can then leverage from what Oracle Primavera Cloud will be able to actually do.
Thank you so much for that. I have then a follow-on question because we are talking about managing projects in times of uncertainty. Cedric, you are the head of sales for the East African region, which means that you interact with different businesses within Kenya, Uganda, Tanzania, Rwanda, Burundi, or maybe an additional set of countries. Now, with COVID-19, we have seen an overall impact, negative impact, so to say, when it comes to the real estate sector. If it's not oversupply, it's a decline in terms of the returns that we are getting. What does that mean in terms of the demand for this particular product? Is there an appetite for this particular product, which we would read through as an appetite for real estate development projects? And secondly, what are the main risk factors that most of these clients who are coming to you are facing? Over to you, and then I'll have follow-on questions for Ms. Rajani as well as for Mr. Tony Olang. Please speak to us. Cedric, over to you.
So the one thing we've actually seen common is how organizations are really realizing that they really need to now do things differently. We showed some of the challenges earlier that were being faced even outside of Africa, and all the customers we've spoken with, they've ticked a lot of this, at least about 70% of what you see on the screen at the moment. So it's a common factor. We've been talking about transformation, automation for a very, very long time. But what COVID has done, unfortunately, is it has forced it upon businesses' hands to then say, now you have to automate, now you have to digitize. And as much as it's late and now we're trying to play catch up from a digitization perspective, it's not because we did not know, and we can't say it's COVID that has made it possible. COVID has only been a catalyst towards doing what businesses should be doing. One thing you basically see in businesses is, so sometimes we are ignorant of certain aspects around how we want to operate and how we want to do things. So we'll come and say, but I've been doing this and it's been working out for me. So why should I need to automate? Why do I need to actually start spending money into other things? Until you stop and say, wait, if you take the challenges you're facing today and all the risks that you've actually faced on your current projects and put a dollar sign to it, how much is it hurting your business? That's when they stop to think and realize that I've actually spent billions on cost overruns, whereas I could actually mitigate some of these things. And that fear for people to wanting to actually try what they think is new, yet it's not really new, it's just automating the processes you're already doing. And when you're able to automate some of those processes, you then run away from the kind of risks that we've seen that amazing tools such as Microsoft Excel has basically costed organizations a lot of money. I shared that information because it's not coming from my head. It's on the public domain, so people can even find this. And what they need to do is basically now start looking at, how do I automate? And it's not about the cost. I know someone is probably going to ask, so how much is it going to cost me for me to get onto this journey? It's not about the cost. It's really about the value that the tool will bring to the project you're delivering.
Okay, thank you so much. I have a question here from Douglas Ochong, and I'll ask Cedric to start us off with an answer briefly, and then I can come to Shafana as well. Cedric says, Douglas Ochong says, Cedric rightly mentioned resistance to change as a major factor holding people back. He dares says that the cost and the learning curve is also a major factor in a market that is predominantly SME. Do you have any plans to support SME users? So I'll ask Cedric, do you have any plans to support SME users? And then I'll come to Shafana in terms of how being a use case, being a case study of using this, how her experience was with the learning curve and the applicability of the product. Over to you, Cedric. Please give us a brief response to this question.
Well, here's my response. Oracle's business is really about information. So how you collect it, how you manage it, how you store it, and how you also make use of it. But one thing that we basically also do is we've got a council that we've set up, which has industry experts that are also part of this conversation. And we say, we like to listen to the challenges that they actually face. And what you'll probably find is once you start these conversations with Lights and their team, with us also supporting Lights, is you're going to discover that we've actually now made it comfortable, flexible for the smallest of businesses to actually have access to a system. So in the past, you needed to have 25 users as a minimum to have a cloud solution. And today you have a minimum of 5 users. So I guess that addresses if you have a 5-man shop, will you be able to actually have these tools and take advantage of? The simple answer to all of that is yes, certainly. And not only will you then be able to manage a schedule, you'll be able to actually look at your cost, you'll be able to look at the quality of the product you're delivering. You also look at the safety and the risk mitigation as well. So it's a one tool fits all at the price of, Tony, how much is it again? Nothing really.
Okay.
Compared to the challenges that we actually facing. So yes.
Okay, thank you so much. Shafan, I'll just ask you briefly, maybe just to comment on the learning curve and the resources required to be expended and what your reference was in terms of this, and also just touching on the fact, can an SME do it, or does it really just have to be a big company that has access to big ticket opportunities or projects? Over to you, Ms. Rajani.
Thank you, Bite. In our experience, yes, I think the only thing that's constant is change, and you definitely need to be able to sell the benefit of the change. I mean, we have a lot of old school practitioners who are very gung-ho on their old model of working. If it's the Excel sheet, I want to use my Excel sheet. If I've always used something else. So to get them to change to the new product that we are using, we had to sell the benefit of the product to them and the convenience of it as well. And I think the best way we could do this is by sampling this. And through the training that was availed to us from Lights, that benefit came out very strong. And that's when everybody said, yeah, sure, no problem. We're happy to move from our Excel into Oracle. And as long as you are able to sell them the benefit, I don't think it's a tough sell.
Okay,
thank you so much. In terms of learning, I think accessibility, as long as somebody has an open mind and openness to innovation and change, it's not very difficult to use. I can tell you from a personal experience.
All right, fantastic. Thank you so much for that overview in terms of the learning curve. So we are continuing to take your questions and answers. Please put them up on the chat box. If you are watching live on YouTube, please also put up your questions on the commentaries. I think the overriding question today is, will these presentations be made available? We will wait for, I think the information from this pack will be available for those of you who had registered, and our administrative team will be able to guide us on that. We are coming to the tail end of today's presentation, and I will invite Mr. Tony Olang to give us the closing remarks as we come to the so what. We have learned XYZ, what is really the call to action, and what's the point of integration in terms of what we have had from Oracle, what we've had from Laser Properties, as well as what we have had from Lights. Mr. Olang, if you are there, I'd kindly ask you to unmute and also put on your video, and you can be able to make the closing remarks for today's webinar.
Thank you very much, Madam Bide, and it's been a very big delight to have you with us today. Within Lights, we place great value in providing you with tailored solutions. We have made intense investments to develop an approach that delivers to unique requirements. Our unique shared approach encourages cooperation with like-minded institutions, and we believe that the fact that we've been interacting here for slightly more than an hour is testimony to that. We work with a large partner network, and Oracle stands out at the front of this. We are Oracle partners, and we look forward to assisting you and holding your hand with regards to looking at how you manage projects and assisting you to improve on your project delivery efficiency. We have a well-trained team that provides you with an unparalleled solution, and we'll be happy to configure them to meet your unique and specific needs. We will always work with you to provide you with the most appropriate software, training, hardware, cloud solutions, maintenance and repair services that you need And definitely, we are hoping that this highly skilled team that we have been interacting with today will assist you in deployment and implementation of your way forward with regards to a futuristic approach to project management. Over to you, Madam B.
All right, thank you so much for those brief closing remarks. Ladies and gentlemen, I know we have taken up enough time, but we are grateful that you are able to stay with us. Whether you are watching us live or whether you are able to register, we certainly appreciate your time. This webinar would not have been possible without the support of CPF Consulting. CPF Consulting has been hosting a series of webinars just to be able to interact with the market, to be able to address different challenges and bring captains of industry together. CPF Consulting is a subsidiary of a CPF Group, and in it being a subsidiary, it operates and in partnership with Lights, which has spoken to us through Executive Director, Mr. Tony Olang, and its core business is ICT and renewable energy. The element of Lights in today's conversation was to set the stage when it comes to managing risks and uncertainty in this time. Now, the role of Lights is they are a partner when it comes to the provision of the Oracle products in the Kenyan space or in East Africa, if you like. So if you had any interest in this particular product demonstration, then your key contacts should be the team led by the Executive Director, Mr. Tony Olang, on behalf of the Lights team to be able to engage and see how can you begin to articulate and mitigate the risks affiliated with your project execution.
Sorry, we seem to have lost our moderator. If you'll just give us a minute to get her back on.
In the meantime, Shafana, there's a question for you that you may need to respond to.
Cedric, I can't see it. Maybe you can read it out for me and I'd respond to it, please.
They're asking what minimum value size of projects does CPF manage?
Oh, thank you. So our project vary. The largest project we've done is the Freedom Heights one, which was the 6 billion shilling project, which was on 5 acres. But when it comes to minimum, there's really no minimum per se, because we do even renovations. We do maintenance of properties, if it's even just fixing flooring, fixing doors, fixing of roofs. So as far as minimum value in projects, we don't have a minimum value. We're happy to take on anything. And it's through the subsidiary of Laser Property Services, which is a subsidiary of the CPF group, the larger group. I hope I've answered your question, Harriet. But feel free to reach out to us. If you have anything, we're happy to assist. Madam Bithe, welcome back. We missed you there. Please unmute. Bithe, please unmute.
So that was risk mitigation at play. I would have only wished that Oracle Primavera would have been able to mitigate that risk. I apologize for that, but I think that's our cue to just say thank you so much to all our panelists. That's Shafana Rajani, Tony Olang, Cedric Tseka, Patrick Kimwaki. Please keep your questions coming in as the audience, and if you are watching online, please just keep your questions coming in, and I think the administrative team at CPF will be able to share the requisite information with you. Again, my sincere apologies. That's a technological hitch. But when it comes to risk, you're probably in a safer space when it comes to being able to identify it in advance and mitigate it. The substance of today's conversation was the Oracle product sales, and this is something that the Lights team can be able to facilitate. Thank you, everybody, for your time, for your patience, for your grace as well, for that hiccup, but let it not happen when it comes to executing a project, especially a large project. So I think that's all, ladies and gentlemen. We will end this particular presentation at this point in time. So please